Hey everyone, this is Daniel,
And I'm Jun,
and we are
Korean.
American.
Hey,
Hey Jun.
I saw one of the reviews in Naver blog
Yeah.
referring to our podcast.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I don't remember the exact words, but they were describing you as like, whenever I explain something,
Yeah.
you're watching me as like a little kid or something. Like
It's pretty accurate. Yeah.
with such curiosity.
I do think I'm a very curious person.
I think you are.
Hence, this podcast
Yeah.
is very satisfying for me. Jun, do you notice anything different about me compared to 2 days ago?
Yes, I was gonna say you shaved
Shaved.
and then you had a haircut.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got lighter. No, I'm just kidding. I actually have not been outside much though in the last 3 days.
Oh, lighter in shade.
Yes.
I thought you meant you lost weight
I think I lost 1 kilo.
already.
Yeah, it might just be water weight because I'm sweating like crazy.
Oh,
It's
crazy.
so hot. But
You know what's so interesting?
Yeah.
Because we met 2 days ago, right?
yeah,
So I'm suspecting that you shaved that day
yeah, I did.
and you already have like a stubble.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting.
It's in the U.S. It's called 5 o'clock shadow. Have you heard that term?
No.
Yeah, basically, if you shave in the morning, you have a little bit of stubble by 5 p.m. So it's
Yeah.
called the 5 o'clock shadow.
You're very unique as a Korean. Not a lot of Korean people can grow that much facial hair.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Pretty
I-
full and grows pretty quickly.
I'm jealous.
June, you have some stubble though.
But I can't grow it up. Like, it doesn't connect.
Yeah,
The thing that I want to do is like connect
the goatee.
all the way from here to here.
I went through a phase where I had like I just like to play with my facial hair and do like weird funny things.
Mhm.
So I've gone through all of the different types of facial hair designs.
Really? What was the craziest one?
It's called the chin strap, where it's just like you just do the outline.
Oh,
There's like the Fu Manchu, which is like you just let this grow at the top. There's all sorts of different ones. Yeah,
cool.
goatee is the classic one,
Yeah.
which is kind of like what most Koreans grow. They don't do it here. It's just they keep the
It's not that they don't, it's that
they can't.
they can't. In fact, there are a lot of Koreans, men, who
Yeah.
do like laser
No.
hair removal.
Oh, hair removal.
Yeah.
Oh,
What did you think that I was gonna say?
like hair transplant to like fill in the
Oh,
beard.
no, no, no. Hair removal,
Mm.
which I think is very interesting.
Wait, basically to just get rid of all their facial hair.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't understand that.
I'm on the record as saying like it. If I just didn't have it, I wouldn't mind. I think knowing maintaining shaving, it's like a hassle. That's
Yeah.
why I let it grow out most of
I
the
wouldn't
time.
mind not having it,
Yeah.
but like intentionally getting rid of it
Mm.
through surgery is something else, I think.
Anyway, yeah. For me, it's definitely not a look. It's
Mhm.
just I'm lazy.
Nice.
Okay, June.
Yes.
We are a little behind in this, but continuing our ongoing series
Mhm.
of monthly news and headline reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So, another one of these episodes, this time we are going to recap some headlines I saw
Mm-hmm.
in the month of July.
Yeah.
And
To be clear, these aren't necessarily the top news, but things that I think caught our attention and something that we think that has more things to talk about.
yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
ideally, we should maybe cover just some of the very top headlines.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's nothing interesting, we don't think it reveals something unique about Korean culture,
Mm-hmm.
or if it wouldn't result in much discussion, yeah, I
Mhm.
think we've agreed just to skip those. So
Mm.
yeah. For example, I think one of the top ones was the City Hall car accident. Like,
Oh, was it?
was it City Hall?
In front of City
In
Hall.
front of City Hall. But
Yeah.
yeah, it killed like 8 people, 9 people, something
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
That obviously is really tragic.
Yes.
Not too much to talk about, right?
Mhm.
I think.
I mean, we did a brief discussion before recording, and then I
You
told.
can never pretend it's real.
No, but I have to tell this because like it has to have context. Because I told you about what 급발진 was, and it was interesting that you didn't know what it was, right?
Yeah, definitely did not know what it was. So
Yeah.
again, just to really quickly recap this one, we won't go into much depth here, but there was a car accident, you said, in front of City Hall,
Mhm.
killed like 9 people.
Mhm.
Very tragic. But I think what made it, have some more, or like one aspect of it that might be more interesting is what you were saying, like the
급발진.
alleged cause of it. Yeah.
Yeah. 급발진, I think it literally means like sudden acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a phenomena. I'm pretty sure it happens some outside of Korea too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very interesting that you didn't know what it was.
Definitely never heard of it
It's
or
a
the
f-
phenomena. Yeah.
It's a phenomena that these people claim that is a mechanical malfunction of the car, where it all of a sudden the car like accelerates like crazy and the brakes wouldn't work. And there are a lot of controversies around whether this is actually a thing or not. Car manufacturers, they always deny that it is a thing. I heard that there are certain cases where it was proven to be true.
Oh, really?
I'm not
Okay.
100% sure
Yeah.
about this. They say like, but it's like a handful, one or two. And a lot of the times it turns out to be the driver mistakenly, for some reason, mistakes the accelerator over the brake.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they want to press on the brake, but they keep on pressing on the accelerator.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's very controversial. So to the point where some Korean drivers would install the so-called like black box camera
Yeah.
on the lower side, like actually where your foot
Yeah.
is and the pedals are.
Recording.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely my initial reaction when I hear this is, yeah, use your error.
Yeah.
Like, again, maybe through no fault, no driver intends to slam on the accelerator instead of the brake. But, they just, whatever, their wires got crossed in their head and they just pressed the wrong pedal.
Yeah.
Admittedly, that has happened to me once before. It barely resulted in any damage, but yeah, I pressed the accelerator instead of the brake. I was parallel parking on a really steep hill. I went forward and tapped the car in front of me, and it was really jarring. But I completely admit it was my fault.
But I see these black box videos that the people who went through this uploaded on YouTube, and it's scary as hell.
Yeah,
because you're accelerating on some highway.
Yeah,
and you can't stop.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
yeah, that is really scary. Yeah, I mean,
and it's so suspicious because
I'm sure it's possible. Right?
At some point, they take off both. They take off the feed entirely, and it's still going.
Yeah,
and you can't mistakenly do that.
Yeah, they're showing it though, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, I know there are situations where the brakes just stop working. For example, right, in highways in the US, there's something called runaway truck exits, where it's you're driving this massive truck, right, all this cargo, and it's just this really long half mile, I think, ramp where trucks can, if their brakes don't work, they can stop there, right?
Interesting.
So definitely, I'm thinking of things where you're taught not to let anything be on the ground where you drive in case a bottle gets stuck under the brake, right? So you can't stop.
Yeah.
Those things I know for sure happen. But I don't know, just the common, yeah, anyway, I've never heard of that. I feel like it would have made really major news. And usually in the US, what happens is this results in a recall.
I see.
So cars do have defects all the time, right? And the manufacturer admits it, and then they do things that are, it's called a recall. Actually, all of my cars, I feel have had a recall at one point. It's actually quite common.
Oh, okay.
But then you can decide whether it's worth it. And anyway, it's always at the expense of the car manufacturer. But yeah, I mean, it just doesn't, it definitely doesn't ring any bells for me. But you're saying this is a very often discussed phenomenon, let's say in Korea.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that thing about the Toyota. There was a very famous instance of what was that Toyota? What's the famous hybrid?
A Prius?
Prius, yeah. Doing this.
Oh.
The brake didn't work in 2012. I remember seeing this in the headlines.
Okay. Yeah. The most prominent incident of sudden, 2010, Toyota Lexus. Yeah, 89 deaths in the US. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, so June, this I think is a good example of a headline that, it's just there's nothing of much consequence to talk about. So we'll move on.
Yes.
To the first one, which I think I wanted to discuss, which is, I don't know how to pronounce this name. I think it's Tzuyang.
Tzuyang.
Those are so off. Yeah.
But I think that's usually how Americans would read it. Pronounce
If
it.
I saw
Yeah.
this name, I would think it was Chinese.
Yeah.
Because TZ at the beginning to me is a giveaway, and then I would definitely pronounce it Tzuyang. Yeah.
I think it's intentional.
Oh, to look like a Chinese name.
Maybe not, maybe not. But any Korean person at
Yeah.
first when they heard this name,
Yeah.
they would think this is a
Chinese.
Chinese
Okay,
person.
okay, yeah. Anyway, sorry, say that one more time.
Tzuyang.
Tzuyang.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a South Korean YouTuber, which
Very famous YouTuber.
so very famous.
She has more than 10 mil
Oh my god.
subscribers, which is crazy for
Just Korea.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
But she is a mukbang YouTuber.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that a lot of foreign viewers also watch Korean mukbang YouTubers.
Yeah.
It's one of the categories of YouTube creators where it's very international. They have like an international audience
Yeah, I agree.
because it doesn't involve a lot of language. You know what mukbang is, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
wait, let me just finish the headline, which is this Korean mukbang YouTuber Tzuyang, over 10 million subscribers on YouTube, was like suffering for years, and I don't know, ex-boyfriend something, but blackmail, extortion, whatever, and like I think the one thing I remember from reading the headline is she was forced to keep doing these videos for years.
I don't know about the videos, but she was
Oh.
forced to maybe I didn't do thorough
I don't know
research,
either,
but
yeah.
she was forced to work at like you know, there are these types of bars in Korea where you can call like you can have girls who are actually employed by the bar
Yeah.
to accompany you.
Yeah, these are quite common, I think. There's nothing like shady per se, but it's just you're like paying.
It is shady.
Oh, is it shady? Okay.
I don't think it's legal.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Even if it is legal,
Yeah.
it is considered to be like shady
Okay.
if you're someone who goes to these type of things.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people do.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. There's a lot to tackle here. Yeah, because one angle I was interested in hearing about was how can someone so famous like suffer for so long under these things?
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, like Britney Spears or whatever, like there's all these really famous people that eventually, even Paris Hilton, I believe, eventually it comes to light that they were suffering a lot. But
Yeah.
normally those are with kids, right? I don't think Tzuyang was a kid when these things happened.
So I think the whole suffering of her came from her trying to hide her past of having to work at these places. But
I
it
see.
also turned out that she was forced to work in these places by her ex-boyfriend.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, she never really talked about this past because basically she would have been disgraced or whatever by Korean society, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would have hindered her ability to become famous, or she might have been canceled because of it.
Maybe. That's, I think, what she feared. Yeah.
Do you know what eventually made her actually come out and talk about her
So
past here?
let's go from explaining what mukbang is, right?
Okay, yeah.
There are a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah.
So mukbang is for people who don't know what mukbang is, right? It's a very famous format of video content
Yeah.
where these people just sit in front of the camera and eat food. Most of the time they eat a lot, but that's not a prerequisite of a mukbang. Sometimes they eat just a normal amount, but they eat like very 맛있게.
Yeah.
Like as if like you want to eat it too.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of people who enjoy just watching these videos and then just watch people eat, maybe like on behalf of you. Maybe you're on a diet, which I think is a horrible idea if you're on a diet.
Yeah.
Anyways, but some people do. And so it became such a famous video content format that the word mukbang just became like a word that's
Yeah.
just used all around the world. Like mukbang is just a word, right?
Yeah, I mean, mukbang definitely reached America. I want to say like maybe early 2010s or something like that. And I remember being in America being like, this is one of those weird like Asian
yeah.
Korean things. Like
Yeah.
that's so ridiculous. Why would anyone just sit there and watch someone else eat?
Yeah.
But June, I have a couple responses to that.
Yeah.
Like now, there's this whole genre of like ASMR type
Mm-hmm.
things, which
Mm-hmm.
are kind of weird too.
Yeah.
But they're pretty mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And even more than that, like there's all these memes now in the US about, if you're on YouTube too long,
Mm-hmm.
like and you start watching these videos, you
Mm-hmm.
know it's time to end your night and go to sleep.
And one of them is mukbang.
Not mukbang,
Yeah.
but like these are even weirder than mukbang.
Mm.
The one that I'm guilty of is it's almost embarrassing. Earwax removal.
Oh, I watched those.
But come on, that's way weirder than mukbang.
Pimple ejection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen these. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's oddly, weirdly satisfying to
Oddly
see.
satisfying. Yeah.
So I think again,
But mukbang is not to that level.
yeah, but Korea was just ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah.
Like these things that nowadays people consider normal would have been really weird back then.
Mhm.
And mukbang, in that reference or whatever, in that light, it's pretty normal just watching someone eat.
Yeah.
But June, I had a couple questions still about mukbang.
Mm-hmm.
I agree when it started, it felt like it was really around live, like watching someone eat live while they're doing it, not just watching it later. Is that true?
No, it doesn't necessarily have to be live.
Okay. Did it start that way? though?
But if you're a mukbang YouTuber who's famous for eating a lot, then you shouldn't have an edit point.
Yeah. Because otherwise they can't. Yeah, that's the point.
There's a concept called mukbet. Do you know what that means?
Whether they will finish it or not.
No, like eat and then spit out.
better. Yeah.
So like you have to have 0 edit points.
I see. To prove.
To
It's like
prove
one
that-
take.
yeah.
You didn't spit anything
and
out.
it is so amazing to
Yeah.
see these people. And Tzuyang is one of those YouTubers who would eat a lot,
Yeah.
like crazy amounts of food.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed with these people and their ability to eat so much. And she's skinny.
They're small. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that's
weird.
another side thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if competitive eating has ever become a thing in Korea.
They call them food fighters.
Food
right?
fighter.
Yeah.
No, Americans definitely don't call them food fighters.
Oh, really? In Korea, they call them food fighter.
Yeah, competitive eating.
Yeah.
I think the most famous one in the US is July 4th.
Okay.
Have you heard of the Nathan's hot dog contest?
Yeah, I know. It's like it's kind of gross.
It's gross.
It's
yeah.
kind of the opposite of mukbang because mukbang you're supposed to eat like very 맛있게.
delicious. It should look delicious.
Deliciously. Yeah. And those like hot dog things, you
It's the
like
opposite.
drenching it water and it just looks very painful.
You literally you soak the buns in water
Yeah.
so it goes down quicker.
Yeah.
You don't chew. You literally just like cram it down your throat. And
Yeah.
it's gross. But also oddly like entrancing. Like if someone eats 70 hot dogs in
Yeah.
whatever, like 12 minutes, that's crazy, right? It definitely is a feat. But I don't know if you know, one of the most famous ones, she's Korean.
Ah, really?
Yeah, I believe she was one of the best female competitive eaters for a while.
Oh.
I want to say her name was Sonia Kim. I'm going to look it up. Yeah, Sonia Thomas. So Korean-born Sonia Thomas.
Surprised that you remember her name.
June, like Koreans are obsessed with Korean nationals who like make it outside,
Ah.
right? Like whether it's a major league sports star like Heinz
see.
Ward in the NFL or baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I think Korean Americans also, whenever they see like a famous Korean, they feel that same sense of like pride.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, anyway. Yeah, Sonia Thomas, at least in 2005, she was the #1 ranked competitive eater, I think, in the world. And, I bring it up too because she's like super small and thin. Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing mukbang?
Yeah. June, I think I mentioned this on a previous pod. The people thought I would be amazing at mukbang when it first came out. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were like, mukbang, like Koreans, like, Daniel, you should do this. You'd be great at it. Yeah. I could eat a lot.
What would be your go-to menu?
I don't know if I've talked about this before. In high school, I might have mentioned this because I share it a lot. I finished a whole Costco combo pizza by myself in one sitting.
Well, I think I can do that. Is it?
Costco pizzas? Have you seen them?
I know
Okay,
they're
okay.
huge. Maybe I'm undermining.
I don't know. No. I mean, anyway. That I did that in high school. I think I also ate basically 3 Chipotle burritos at one point in 30 minutes too. But it's like I'm not like pushing myself.
Yeah.
I just like love eating and it tasted good.
But yeah, the reason why I think that you would be good at mukbang is
Yeah.
not because you eat a lot. I think you 맛있게 먹어. You eat deliciously.
Thank you. Yeah, I've
Is
been told
is
that
that even a
before.
word in English? Deliciously?
No one would ever say that.
Isn't
Yeah.
that a very interesting Korean word?
It
That
is a
is a
yeah.
very not. I don't think it's a very weird concept, but it just oddly doesn't exist
Yeah, 맛있게 먹어.
yeah, right?
Yeah,
맛있게 먹어.
I
How would you
agree.
describe that? You eat very deliciously.
You make the food look delicious while you eat.
It's such
You
a
eat in a way that makes the food look delicious. Yeah, deliciously is not a
yeah.
word.
Anyways, I think you eat deliciously.
Thank you. I've been told that a lot, Jun.
Yeah,
Throughout my whole life. Yeah.
yeah.
No, but I think the earliest time I realized this was I was at a friend's house or whatever. I must have been like I think sixth grade, and I was just eating like what I thought was a normal meal. But both him and his mom were like looking at me like, "What's going on right now?" But June, growing up, I kid you not, you know the rice kudots, right? Like one of those silver bowls of rice. Like when you go to a restaurant, say "공깃밥 하나 주세요," right? Like that.
Yeah.
Growing up, I kid you not, I think I would eat 4 to 5 every night.
Every night
Yeah.
for dinner?
I'm not kidding. Yeah, maybe 4 to 5 is a lot.
Is that like your family thing or is it you?
My family, my parents did like want me to eat a lot, but it just I remember the moment when I first saw what like one serving quote unquote of rice was, and I was like, I ate 5 of those every night. Yeah. Anyway, I remember that moment distinctly, and then I guess a year later, I remember going to like this all you can eat pizza buffet with like my church group.
You go to all you can eat a lot.
A lot, yeah. I went a lot growing up. I love all you can eat. Nowadays, I can't anymore. Funny enough, I ate lunch all you can eat buffet. Anyway, but yeah, I was at this pizza buffet, and people were just like, "How many have you eaten? Like, you just eat fast and you don't stop." So actually, that's my kind of trick. I think I just eat really fast, and before my brain tells me to stop and like you're full, I just keep eating. So yeah.
The first time I realized that you eat very 맛있게 is when we went to 장모밥상.
Ah, that place is so good. Yeah.
I was kind of amazed how
Dude, I've gotten this my whole life. Yeah.
and I'm
People tell me.
surprised that you're like pretty like in shape compared to how much you eat.
That is true. I was very thin growing up. I think definitely once I started working in my 20s, I gained a lot of weight. But yeah, growing up, I would just eat and eat and eat, and I wouldn't really
So you have
get
very active
fast metabolism.
metabolism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we can't go too much into mukbang. So anyways, Jiang, do you want to go? Do you?
No, I had a lot more thoughts on mukbang. I wanted to get out.
Let's go.
But you already covered one. Let's see. You said it doesn't have to be live.
Doesn't have to be live.
Even when it came out, though, wasn't the whole concept like don't eat alone? I think that was a big, at least when I remember reading about it in Western media, the idea was like, oh, don't eat alone, right? And so the reason I wanted to bring this up is because you often said too in Korea, especially in like a work environment, eating lunch alone is seen as super sad. Like you just don't do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it like resonated for me. It's like, oh yeah, Koreans think eating alone is really sad. You shouldn't do it. Combined with I know like the modern trend of like people doing a lot of things alone. Have you heard of that? Like hanmok, hansul, like
혼밥.
혼밥. Like
혼밥,
basically eating
혼술,
alone, right?
혼코노. Do you know what 혼코노 is?
No.
When you go to 코인 노래방 alone.
No, that's
Yeah.
pretty depressing. Yeah.
혼코노.
So
No,
okay.
but people do that a lot.
See, before I thought that would have been super depressing.
Yeah.
Because in the US, karaoke is strictly a social thing. But after being in Korea, that doesn't surprise me. Because noraebang is all about practicing for the real thing.
And also, not like the coin norebangs are designed
Yeah.
to almost designed to enjoy alone because they're in like these booths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, just the idea of having to go someplace to practice singing or practice your noraebang skills so that when you're with other people, you sound good. It just sounds kind of like,
I would kind of detest to that. Like honkono is
Yeah.
for you to just enjoy by yourself.
oh, not to practice. I
Not to
see.
practice. Some people do, but I think majority of the reason is just to enjoy. Yeah.
Anyway, we've talked about this before because in the US, can't you just sing in your shower?
But you don't have like the panju, like that, like
The atmosphere, yeah, right?
no, also like the music, the MR.
I see.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if coin noraebangs ever became popular in the US. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still a very Asian thing.
Honestly, it just my reaction to that is it feels too depressing. Like again, for better for worse, like you look and feel like a loser if you go karaokeing by yourself, right? Like, I don't mean to offend anyone, but a lot of the hon things in Korea, like, isn't there one for watching a movie by yourself too? I don't know how common that is, right? Or if there's a social stigma around it. But I think
Have you?
I don't think I ever have.
Think
But I think
I have a couple times.
yeah, I think in Korea it's actually quite common.
Yeah.
But I think in America, like you just I would never do it because I would feel too sad. It's too depressing.
I think as a society,
Yeah.
as a whole, America is more of a E in your MBTI, and Korea is more of an I.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. But anyway, I thought that was some of the early appeal of the mukbangs.
Mukbang. I think so.
Okay.
Uh,
So in that,
in that regards, I saw something very interesting.
Yeah.
Very recent news. There's this, and of course, this comes out of Japan, but it's the invention of hombap. I think they started the hombap culture almost, right?
eating alone, yeah.
And they of course they integrate this with AI.
What?
They have the iPad thing in front of your table
Yeah.
where it has like this anime character, and the video watches what you eat and it will describe what you're eating, and it will like
That's really
interact with
depressing.
you.
Yeah. I feel like that's so depressing. Because there's a world in which I think when you're eating alone, you can not even pretend. Like I actually enjoy going to restaurants alone, but that's because I get to listen to my podcasts, like be with my thoughts or whatever, just enjoy the food. But that thing you talked about, like the AI, like talking to me and interacting with me as if I'm not alone, the illusion's all gone, right? It's just like you're faced directly with your loneliness. You can't even pretend you're going to like be alone on purpose.
But don't you think that that's the future of humanity?
That's a very depressing thought. Definitely in Asia, it feels that way.
Yeah.
Especially, I'll just speak to Korea with the loss of Jung. It feels like we're going in that direction.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. We'll cover that more in a future episode, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so
okay.
Now I think we can move on from mukbang, but
That was a long intro. So there are two concepts that I have to cover to explain the Tzuyang incident.
okay.
Number one was mukbang, but this is just to explain who this person is and what she does. Number two is this concept called cyber rekha.
Cyber hacker?
Rekha.
Oh, cyber wrecker.
Wrecker.
Okay.
Do you know what a wrecker is?
I mean, someone who destroys something, but like, no, I don't know the exact Korean term for wrecker. No.
Do you know what a wrecker is in a vehicle term?
Someone who causes a car accident?
I think sometimes, you know what a tow truck is, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes they call it a wrecker.
Oh, a tow truck is called a wrecker.
This is what I learned from researching.
Yeah.
Maybe in the UK or whatever.
Okay,
they call it
okay.
a wrecker.
Yeah, never heard that before.
And so cyber is like cyber.
Yeah, online.
So it's like an online tow truck they call. So it's another genre of YouTube content in Korea where these people, they just talk about these very stimulating social issues.
Oh, they're like being extra loud personalities to like rile up or be divisive kind of thing?
Yeah, they're kind of like trollers,
Okay.
almost like,
Yeah, I
like
get
they
it.
cover like social issues
Yeah.
that are very stimulating for the public.
And by stimulating, you mean like it gets you riled up. It's
Yeah.
very divisive.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, this is like every major news outlet in America would probably be called the cyber wrecker then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you know why, now you understand why it's called a cyber wrecker, right? Because they go to these places where something bad happened. And they just they talk about it.
No, Jun, you have to add one more thing to this too,
Yeah.
which is tow truck culture in Korea.
Oh, is that different from the tow truck?
I'm pretty sure. I don't think the tow truck culture in Korea exists in America. So you have to
Oh.
talk about that too.
I'm
And
surprised that you know what a tow truck culture in Korea is.
I only know the tow truck culture in Korea because of Korean dramas. And it's so ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I think one drama featured it. But yeah, let me give my understanding of tow truck culture in
Yeah.
Korea. Basically, I think it's a bunch of people who own tow trucks driving around
Yeah.
like accident prone areas and like, listening to the police radio, which
Yeah.
may or may not be illegal, and trying to be the first one on scene
Yeah.
so that they can like get that tow and get the money for it.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
very competitive.
Exactly.
And they have a very bad, I don't want to say bad, but they don't have a good public perception because in the process of running to the accident area,
It's dangerous.
It's
right?
very
It's
dangerous,
it's
yeah.
irresponsible of
Yeah.
them. Yeah, yeah. I mean, to the point where like they might even cause the accident or want the accident to happen so that they can be first on site to get the tow. So
exactly.
yeah, okay.
So
yeah, I'm pretty sure this is not a thing in America,
yeah.
but I may be wrong. But I've just never heard of this before. Yeah.
So I'm glad that you covered that because that very clearly states what a public perception in Korea of what a wrecker is.
got
Even
it.
the original idea of what a wrecker is.
Yeah.
And so to call these people cyber wreckers, you understand how like it's kind of like guilty pleasure to watch these content, right?
That I don't know the guilty pleasure part, but I definitely understand the stigma, right?
And so whenever some public figure gets canceled in
Yeah,
public, I
yeah.
think it has a lot to do with these cyber wreckers.
yeah, they're the
'Cause
first
they
ones on the scene.
simulated- yeah.
Basically, they're online personalities in Korea who are waiting for any news so that they can like jump on it, have a really hot take,
Yeah.
and just become famous or get a lot of views from it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like trolling and clickbaiting and everything, just like taken again to the very extreme, where it's taking like a live thing and trying to be the first one to jump on it with the most hottest like extreme take. Yeah. Anyway.
And so there's this very famous cyber wrecker. I don't want to name his name.
We're not
because-
trying to get sued, June.
Yeah.
Defamation laws.
Yeah. This person was found out that has been blackmailing Tzuyang for a long time because
Oh.
they obtained the information that she has been working in these like adult bars for a very long time.
Now it's making sense to me. Okay, okay.
And so there was this phone call recording between this guy and some other cyber wrecker about like, oh, I got this information and I'm gonna like blackmail Tzuyang and
Yeah.
get some money out of it.
That's
And they
awful,
actually
yeah.
did receive like, I think it was like 5천만 원-ish. That was like 50K by promising not to let this out. And so they were saying in this conversation that he's done this a lot
Ah, I see.
to other people as well, like getting this information and blackmailing them.
Yeah,
Give me money or else I would like publish this.
yeah.
And do you know how this got revealed to the public?
No. By another wrecker?
By another wrecker.
I love that. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah. Anyways, and so Tzuyang was on the verge of like getting exposed with this information. So she actually announced it first.
First, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Which
she
is a pro move on her part,
Yeah, it
right?
revealed all of her
Yeah.
past, and it turns out her past is so tragic because she was dating this boyfriend. I think he was the CEO of her label.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so they were in a very toxic relationship.
Yeah.
And like they had like these like sex videos of her, and then like he was, threatening her with the video, and then making her work in these like adult bars and like getting money out of her, and it was very tragic.
Obviously, yeah, that's really sad to hear. So sadly, to me, not surprising, just because I think Korea does have a reputation of having a lot of really bad like sex crimes against women. Right, the Burning Sun scandal, right? That was basically a very similar thing. No,
Was it? Burning Sun was about drugs.
or like and recording and sharing with.
Oh, that yeah.
Isn't
yeah.
that what? Anyway,
Yes,
just
yes,
like I
yes.
think there's
those are all related. Yeah.
Yes, it's just this whole class of basically kind of sex related crimes against women.
Yes.
And the perpetrators never coming to justice, and it always being swept under the rug, and the women often suffering the most, right?
Yeah.
Even though they're the victim a lot of
Yeah.
times. So that's why sadly it's not surprising to me. But yeah, I didn't know all of this was involved in this case. So yeah.
I think now that I think about it, it's more of a thing in Korea because I think if this were to happen in the US, I don't think the victim would have thought that it's such a big deal or they would just reveal it immediately. But for her to go through so much pain to conceal the secret and going through, she actually paid like 600만 won, which is the equivalent of like $5,000 per month
Yeah.
to two people who worked in the same adult bar
Yeah.
to shut their mouth.
Yeah.
So she went to that extent to cover her past, which I think she wasn't guilty at all because she was being forced to do that.
Yeah.
But it was such a, because in Korean society often like women being involved in these like, you know, sexual contexts, it's considered to be so much of a taboo that yeah, she had to go through that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're pointing out exactly the difference between the US.
Yeah.
It's the, you know, extra stigma against sex industry or sex crimes or sex related crimes. And also just, we've talked about this before in previous episodes. Cancel culture in Korea, like the shame and stigma that comes from anything that's going to get you canceled by society, it's just so extreme in Korea.
Yeah.
Right. And but I will be clear, like America has a horrible track record in this regard too, just to be clear, right? And I won't go past just saying like Jeffrey Epstein and that whole thing. I mean, yeah, America has a really, really dark underside as well.
I think Korea puts a lot of value in women and their purity,
Yeah.
right? And I remember even when I was growing up, like maybe like 20, 30 years ago, if a celebrity couple, they get divorced, the husband has no issue in like returning back and doing his job, but then the wife would like has to have like the so-called 자숙 기간, like
Apology, is that the public apology?
a period
Oh yeah,
of reconciliation for a very long time.
yeah, yeah. Again, sadly, I think the U.S. was very similar, but I think it's moved on a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, it's probably it's the Christian roots, I believe it has to be. Yeah. I don't know. Is purity a thing in Confucian ideology?
I don't think so.
I think it's the Christian roots. Yeah. Yeah. I guess what's the conclusion or resolution of this? Do you know where it's at?
I think she made a wonderful is too much of a good word, but she made a very good comeback, and she did a very good move by actually telling herself very sincerely about her past and everything. And so I think the public sentiment is very for her, which is a good thing. Yeah.
Is she still doing mukbangs? Is that her thing?
I don't think she's doing the mukbang right now. That would be kind of like too much.
Too much, yeah.
But the cyber wreckers are going through lawsuits.
Okay. Good. I mean, yeah, hopefully there's justice here, but yeah, really sad case. Again, even more sad now that I know, I guess, more about it. But yeah, I think hopefully Korean society can continue to evolve in this manner. I don't know, being less quick to jump and pile on and judge others. And again, U.S. is no better, right? News has become more and more extreme, more clickbaity. I mean, false, a lot of half truths and things like that, just to get views and clicks or whatever, right? So, okay, two quick things before we move on, though. Why doesn't Korea just create some legislature or like some law against these cyber wreckers? It feels like they're driving a lot of divisiveness in society. It's really toxic, right? And again, I could say the same thing about the US. Why don't we try to outlaw fake news or whatever? But yeah, I know the Korean government to me just feels very active. So why haven't they tried to do something about this?
I don't know exactly, but my gut feeling is that you said it yourself too. Like you said, a lot of like public news are basically wreckers. So I think there's a very blurred line between an actual legitimate news broadcast and these cyber wreckers, like right?
Yeah.
What's the definition of a wrecker?
Yeah.
So I think it's very difficult to ban it.
Yeah.
Because like what they're doing is just like basically they're just like the news.
Yeah, I get it. But they're like a solo person or whatever,
Yeah.
Also, Jun, now that you mention it, this wrecker persona, it's in a lot of K-dramas, and it makes a lot more sense to me now. And maybe I should have already known about it, but yeah, this is the first time I heard heard it called a wrecker, and the connection to tow trucks.
Yeah.
The second thing I wanted to say though, June, is Korea, one of the things I say so much on this podcast is I love how safe it is here physically. You're not going to get anything stolen. You're not going to get attacked. And it's just such a safe country in real life. But I feel like it's even more scary and dangerous to be online in Korea than it is in America. I don't know why that is, but that's just my perception. And it's really sad, right? That a country that probably should rightfully pride itself on its safety physically can't do the same when it comes to online security and protection. So I don't know if...
What made you think so, though? I'm curious.
Cyberbullying, cyber hacking, it just seems more... Yeah, I don't know why.
But isn't it the same in the US? Like, internet culture is also very toxic in the US too, I think.
Yeah, that's just my perception. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because I don't understand it. But I do think the netizens in Korea are pretty famous, June, globally, for being incredibly ruthless. Just like threats and like the doxing and everything. Like, for sure it happens elsewhere, but I feel like Korea is just a bit ahead of the curve in like a bad way here.
I think when it's really dangerous is when they think that they're doing justice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And like doxing these people while they think they're doing justice to the society. And that's one of the reasons why I think they're very ruthless in doing something.
I see.
Yeah.
They're not doing it just for the clicks or for trolling or whatever. They legitimately believe they're doing the right thing and doing like a public good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So just to be clear though, your perception is that the US is not any different with regards to, cyberbullying, online harassment, like being safe online in the US.
That's what I felt when I went into the US server of Blind. It's even more toxic. I think Blind is one of the most toxic communities that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I really don't like the product in general.
I see.
I think it instigates a lot of toxic behaviors of people's that they have it in their like instinctual level.
Yeah.
I thought when I went into US Blind, I thought it would be a bit different.
Safer, yeah.
I think it's worse than Korea, if not on par.
Okay. Again, I don't have any reference because I actually can't navigate Korean forums like natively, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how toxic they are. I'll just say again, my feeling is that there is a reputation for Korean netizens and that they're even more scary than the rest of the world. But anyway, that's just my perception.
Interesting.
The reason I thought this made sense, June, is because in real life, Koreans have to be so buttoned up and conservative and careful in what they say and how they act that it's just like they have no outlet for it. Whereas Americans, I don't know, they maybe they feel more free to say whatever they want, whatever's on their mind, to rant, etc. in real life too. So it's not as bottled up. They don't need to find that online outlet to just like dump everything.
I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
That was just my feeling. Yeah. But
yeah, I think Korean people, exactly how you describe, because in society society's a lot stricter and more conservative and more judgmental than in the US. And so because of that, people can't express exactly what they feel. So I think they have to rant it out in the anonymity of the online world.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, that's the Tzuyang case.
Tzuyang.
I need to see the Hangul to even have a chance at pronouncing it, but
like the 짱지으 as in 짜장면.
Yeah.
And then
Tzuyang. Okay. Tzuyang in that headline. Yeah. All right, we have two more I wanted to cover.
Oh my God.
June, maybe this is a good time really quickly too to say there were two other things that were just really dominant in the news in July, but we will not cover again. One was just the monsoon season, Jangma season, just rain, a lot of rain.
Yeah.
And then two, the Olympics. But we will definitely do an Olympic recap in a future episode. Yes. So we're not discussing anything Olympics related. Cool.
Yeah.
So moving on to the second headline.
It was really hot though. and then it was raining a lot.
Really rainy, right?
Yeah.
I missed it all.
You missed it all.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Well, June, I was out with my kids, and like literally in a second, it went from no rain
Yeah.
to just like pouring rain, like these fat droplets.
Yeah.
And then it stopped immediately again. So,
Yeah, I think that's relatively new
Oh, really?
because of climate change. I think Korea became pretty like included in the tropical region now. So it's kind of like those Southeast Asia like skull things.
it's like random.
Yeah, yeah.
Just, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think that happened a lot when I was growing up.
I see.
Yeah.
So this is not related to Jangma per se. It's more just like climate change in general.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. The second headline I wanted to cover was LGBTQ rights. And, I think at this point in Korea, it's mostly just centered around gay rights. Is that fair to say? Like the BTQ plus part is just like not even on the radar in Korean society, right? It's just like lesbian and gay.
I think a little bit of there are some very famous trans people on public television right now.
Oh, there are?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's great. I didn't even know that. I would not have thought that they could become popular in Korea, especially in mainstream media.
There was this one person who became so famous, and surprisingly, it was in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She was famous for being so pretty.
Oh, okay.
She was what do you call it?
Male to female trans?
Yeah, M to F.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Trans.
Yeah.
She's called Harisu.
Ah,
She's like the first gen trans person to ever like come out.
Wow.
On Korean public television. It was very ahead of time,
yeah.
right?
I think that was even the head of the U.S.
Yeah, and then she was so famous. She was like on TV commercials. She was on all these TV shows. She had like an album out. She was once a singer. She acted. I don't know what she's doing right now, but like, yeah. And then now I think there's a very famous trans TV personality. I think she got famous from YouTube 1st. She's called Pungja. She's sort of like a comedian type of person.
Yeah.
She's really big.
Yeah.
And
So
she-
the opposite of the first person you were saying,
Yeah.
in a sense, yeah.
But there is like, so they have a presence.
Okay.
But it's not in no way prevalent.
Yeah.
But there are like certain people.
Honestly, I did not know that, and I'm, I guess, pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
that Korean society is, accepting of them. Anyway, so
I think they accept them as a character and not like as trans people per se.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's different seeing someone, let's say, on the news or on a TV show
Yeah.
versus like, I don't know, if your own child were
Yeah.
to make that kind of decision, right?
There are
So-
like handful of people who
Yeah.
are openly like gay or trans that are on TV, but they're just recognized as them as a character, and it doesn't mean that Korean society is accepting of those people.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the idea.
I get it. Okay, so the headline is basically saying same-sex couples in South Korea are expressing hope for the improvement of LGBTQ plus rights on the coattails of last week's Supreme Court ruling that recognized the legal rights of a same-sex couple for the first time ever. I mean, this is huge, right? So it sounds like the South Korean Supreme Court made a ruling that kind of spousal benefits or spousal coverage for health insurance should apply to same-sex couples. And I guess I don't know where we're at with honoring same-sex marriage, but it sounds like you can get married and now you can get benefits from that. So, I mean, this is huge, right?
I don't think they necessarily mean that they can get married, but it's very close to that, and it's very symbolic is what they're saying.
Okay.
So through research, I learned that these two, I think they're men. These two men got married in 2019, and when I say married, I don't think it means that they were legally married, but they were just like married, like as a concept.
I see.
Right? And so
you're functionally married, but maybe not legally married at that point.
yeah, it sounds like de facto marital partners.
Okay.
In Korea, it's called 사실혼, as if like you're not legally married, but like you're living together.
Okay.
So I guess the government acknowledges that you are like not technically married, but like practically married.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Kind of, but yeah.
So if they're opposite sex,
Yeah.
a lot of the times the it's acknowledged that you're basically just married without just like being legally like acknowledged in the documents. So
I mean,
that you can,
how would that differ from just like committed couple being in a relationship, living together?
I heard that you have to have a lot of proof of like you have to be living together. Sometimes you have to actually have the wedding ceremony.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like very integrated financially and
Got
all
it.
that. Yeah.
Understood. Okay. So it's
Anyways,
just this concept that like you're married but maybe not on paper legally.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Understood.
And so it's pretty common for opposite sex, but these two men they got married in 2019, and one of the benefits that you get by getting married is that one person can be registered as someone else's dependent.
Ah, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so if person A works at some company that provides health benefits, they can register their spouse as their dependent so they can get equal benefit from the National Health Insurance Service, right?
Got it.
So these two people got married in 2019 and they listed that other spouse as a dependent. And then the National Health Insurance was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And they canceled it.
Ah.
And so this person filed a lawsuit against the National Health Insurance. And then the first rule was against them.
So denying them coverage
Yeah.
as a same-sex couple. Okay.
And then they did an appeal. And then the second round, the court ruled in favor of them. And so then the National Health Insurance appealed back. And finally, it was last month, which is July, that the Supreme Court dismissed the appeal against the National Health Insurance Service.
From the National Health Insurance.
From the National Health Insurance.
Okay, cool. So they uphold the ruling that they now get the same benefits.
Yeah. And it is very symbolic move of the Supreme Court saying that it says that same-sex partners are not different from de facto marital partners who are recognized as dependents because they form an economic living community. So they're saying basically it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the first time. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We're not a political podcast, so I don't want to get too deep into some of that. But what I will say is this happened much quicker than I might have anticipated, right? And in America, it wasn't even that long ago that like the whole country seemed to flip from being against gay marriage to being for gay marriage, and all of a sudden every state started to pass these laws, and it just seemed to flip, almost overnight.
I see.
And I say that, I know that could come across saying that very lightly because I know people have been fighting for gay rights in America for decades and decades and decades. So recognizing all that, it finally just seemed to flip. Like public sentiment just went the other way, and all of a sudden all these states seem to pass them laws, giving them equal rights. So anyway, that's my first takeaway here. It seemed to happen faster in Korea than I would have anticipated. Is that your feeling as well, having lived here, I guess, continuously?
Yeah, I think it was very surprising because I think Korea is a very conservative nation as a whole. And the public perception towards like homosexuality I feel like it's very light years behind of what like European countries are like or even the United States is like. So I think it was very surprising to me. Yeah, but again, as we mentioned multiple times in this podcast, one of the perks of Korea being a very collectivist society is that once they go past the tipping point, everyone's like very quickly changes their mind. Yeah. So I think this is one big step, but I think like you mentioned for how the US changed for these kind of issues, I think maybe in the very near future, Korea is going to be they could change their mind very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah. Okay, another one of my initial thoughts here is like gay rights, homosexuality, etc. Is it a highly political issue in that one party is very much for it and the other is very much against it? Or in Korea, is it collectively both parties are kind of generally not for it? Because in the US, I think has been very divided along political lines. So if you're like a Christian Republican, right, you're very against it. But if you're a free-thinking liberal Democrat, then of course you're for it and you're trying to, you know, progress more equal rights there. Yeah, is it political and is it divided along the same lines?
I think homosexuality is still so much a controversial issue that it's they're very careful to put it on the agenda, even for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, like neither party is really pushing the agenda. Yeah.
I think the only like very far left political parties would be very active in advocating for gay rights.
Okay.
But I think definitely the Democratic Party is more permissive a little bit. For instance, I know that they do like the gay parade thing in front of City Hall, and if like the city mayor is from the more conservative party, they wouldn't allow them to do it there.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So it still is divided along those same lines, but still overwhelmingly, Korea as a whole, it doesn't really push this that much. Yeah. I guess my follow-up to that then is, what do you think prompted this change in ruling? And anyway, like to me, it's so foreign to think about social change happening when it isn't like one political party like heavily pushing it, right? Like every social issue in America, it just seems to be divided along these political lines. No change would ever happen unless like one political party is really pushing it forward. But it seems like that's not the case here. This is again, to me, it's very encouraging that independent of like a political side really pushing this agenda, some sort of progressive change can happen just because it seems to be the right thing here, right? But anyway, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I don't know exactly. And I think it was kind of odd because right now the president is from the Conservative Party. So we're under a more conservative government. So it is very surprising for me. One of my answers would be because it's a global trend. And I think countries tend to move to this direction as they become more civilized and developed.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Similar to like, I don't even know why I'm making this analogy, but you know, previously we talked about the ban on, you know, consuming dog meat.
Yeah.
It just seemed like maybe Korea didn't want to be embarrassed on a national stage. And so they're passing these laws that or going with the trend that all the other nations seem to be following. Is that
I think
fair?
there's definitely a global scale of what a civilized country is, right? There could be a global consensus of what that looks like, kind of.
Yeah.
And I think there's a tendency of countries tending to move towards that direction.
Interesting.
This is, I don't know. I don't know if this is too politically correct or not.
No, what Jun, when you describe it that way, to me it's just like at a meta level, Korea as a country, even not just within Korean society, but Korea relative to the global, like the global stage.
Yeah,
it's also very collectivist.
We want to fit into that. Yeah,
Korea's like whatever the global consensus is towards this, like we'll typically follow along. Yeah, which isn't a bad thing, right? But yeah, I'd say America is probably, maybe Europe is even more advanced than America, right? Europe's leading the charge, doing their own thing, progressive.
But even for like environmental rights, right? That's a very first world thing.
Yeah, I mean, that you can afford to care about.
There is a trend, I think. There's a trend in the world.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I get it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I know that you grew up in a very Christian environment. I guess you live abiding the Christian rules.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
And one thing that comes to mind is that whenever I see in the news, like whenever there's like a gay pride parade in Korea, there's this huge counter like demonstration, always from the Christian group, sort of like having, so it's like always like this drama of like these like gay pride people like being all happy. And then like this Christian groups like trying to like demonize them.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, like, because you grew up in a very Christian household, like, what do you think about like all this, and what made you change your mind if your thoughts were different initially?
Yeah, Jun, I don't know how deep I'll go here, but I'll say maybe 5 years ago, I would have felt very uncomfortable talking and answering this question. But I think I'm at a point now where I'm pretty comfortable and confident in my faith, and I can express this. So, yeah, I'll say growing up, right? Sorry, where do I start? Let me just say I grew up in a Christian household, fairly conservative. I'd say, the Korean Christian household specifically, which I do think airs more conservative. I still, consider myself a Christian, go to church every Sunday when I can, and really believe in, Jesus and the Bible. So, having said that, I don't really have much of an opinion on homosexuality. I don't. Yeah, I can't even say I think it's a sin or a bad thing. And I think my reading of the Bible and my faith, it's really centered around one thing, which is, follow Jesus' example and really, love your neighbors, love everyone as much as you can. And I won't go too deep and, stand on my pedestal here. But I'll just say, like, for me, one thing's very, very clear in the Bible. It's like, we're all not perfect. None of us should be judging anyone else about anything. And it's really about loving them and not judging them. And so, yeah, for me, I'm pretty firmly in the camp that I'm in no place to judge who is right or wrong per se, right? And something like homosexuality, which is very unclear. I know a lot of Christians will say, like, no, clearly in the Bible it states. But at least from my reading and interpretation of the Bible, it's not that clear, because I think the Bible does need to be read in context. And yeah, so for something that's so unclear, like, I'm in no position to judge. So, it's not like something like murder. And to be clear, even murder is unclear. Sometimes murder in self-defense, right? Whatever. Like, this is where there's so many issues around whether it's homosexuality or abortion, things like that are so politicized in the US. I really just kind of steer clear of them. And, I don't feel like I'm compromising my faith in doing so. So, yeah, that's where I stand on that. And I do think at some point I'd love to have an episode dedicated to, let's say, religion or Christianity, because I do think the Christianity that my parents believe and practice and kind of indoctrinated into me at a young age, and I've had to, like, wrestle with my whole life. Hey, why does this feel wrong to me? I feel like I can't be true to myself and my own reading of the Bible and also abide by what I was taught, let's say, at home and in the church. Right. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, I think at some point we have to tackle that as an episode, because I think clearly, right, Christianity has an influence globally, but it has really deep impact on the US, and it also has really deep impact on Korea too. So yeah.
Me, I think this might be a very Korean way of thinking, and also a very utilitarian way of thinking.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it's good for the country to institutionalize gay marriage, especially in regards to the declining birth rate.
Yeah.
I know fundamentally gay couples don't contribute to reproduction, but if you institutionalize that relationship, I think there's a lot to do with, like, maybe they can adopt children from abroad.
Jun,
right?
I know many same-sex couples who I believe are fabulous parents who have adopted. Yes. And also, Jun, I remember definitely since I moved to Korea in the last year or two, there was a major headline too. I believe the first lesbian couple in Korea adopted or had a kid somehow. I don't know.
Really?
I don't remember exactly, but I remember it being huge news. And again, like, more power to them. Oh, Jun, there's so much more I could talk about this. Maybe I'll just say one more story.
Yeah.
I think, Jun, growing up in Maryland, I'm sure, and Maryland's a pretty progressive state in the 90s, and, I'm sure that I had met gay people. And in hindsight, I think I definitely knew a couple that were gay. But for me, it just wasn't it wasn't a huge social issue at the time, or at least for me, I was not aware of it. And then I remember moving to California, and all of a sudden, especially Bay Area, right, Northern California, it was just so many people were gay. It was the first time I remember in my life really having to, like, even think about this, because again, there just weren't many gay people, let's say, out in public, or at least I wasn't aware of it. And that's when I really started to, I guess, realize and started to make friends with and actually know a lot of gay people, and completely changing, like, everything I was taught or thought growing up about gay people. So the reason I bring this up is I think that's probably similar to the situation Korea's in now. Most Koreans probably have never met or talked with or interacted with someone who's gay openly, right? And so all their thoughts and preconceptions and whatever, it's just based on, I guess, maybe it's religion or what other people or what they read, right? But they've never directly interfaced or interacted with gay people. And once you do, I think very quickly you start to realize, like, oh, they're just like everyone else. There's really nothing that different about them. Anyway, that's why I wanted to share that, because I think that journey for me is probably, a similar journey that Koreans will have to go on as they become, I think, maybe more open to foreigners and maybe just a little less conservative overall. So
my personal exposure to that kind of environment is when I went to grad school. And so I went to architecture school. And so naturally, I think maybe this is not a PC way to say.
Wait.
I was going to say
naturally.
Naturally, there's more gay people.
That is not at all a conception I have.
Because it's architecture school. Architecture is kind of like a form of art, I think. I definitely would think that there are more gay people in architecture school than in, let's say, like engineering school.
That is so wild. I don't think that at all. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of very famous gay architects.
Interesting.
The chair of architecture when I was going to school was openly gay, and a lot of professors were either gay or lesbian.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of my classmates were openly gay.
I see.
And
I never had that preconception.
Of like architects being gay?
Both of architecture being an art like major. To me, it's very technical and much more similar to engineering. And secondarily, architecture or, art for sure, there's a stigma that there's maybe a higher concentration of gay people. But architecture then also having that, like, again, never in my mind did I think that. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, anyway. Yeah.
So anyways.
Sorry, keep going. Yeah. When you first
I saw a lot of,
school,
that's the first time in my life where I met a lot of openly gay people. I'm pretty sure I met gay people in the closet before, but like openly gay people, I think they're like really nice people. Yeah. Nicer even maybe.
I mean, I would agree with you. Yeah. I think anytime you're in the minority, let's say, it probably gives you a good dose of empathy overall. Yeah. Because you know what it's like to be in the minority.
Exactly.
Right.
I think for you to overcome prejudice is that you have to normalize it, right? And so you have to get exposed to that environment and actually see that for what it looks like in real life. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to extend it one step further, not just for, let's say, gays and homosexuality in Korea, but Korea being such a homogenous society, whether it's foreigners, I don't know what other major social issues that are going to come, but I think Korea definitely will have to reckon and deal with that. Yeah. Normalizing through, what did you say?
Exposure.
I don't know what you said. It sounded good when you said it, but I think not just like sexual orientation or race, with whatever it is, I think Korea's going to have to struggle through that. All right, Jun, third headline I wanted to discuss. This one is definitely lighter than the previous two. The headline reads, 90% of Gen Z says they won't keep quiet over problems at work. And I guess this was from a study about 1,700 people in Gen Z, which they're defining as adults born after the mid-90s, who on the platform Catch, have you heard of Catch?
No.
Okay. Basically, the survey was, if you were dissatisfied with the company, what would you do? And only 10% said they would hold it in. And then 25% said they would confide in a coworker. 23% said they would just leave the company. And then 21% said they would consult with their manager. So anyway, I don't know what you think about this, but in general, I just wanted to talk about some conceptions of Gen Z in the workplace, since that is something you had mentioned before. Yeah.
After reading this article, I have my initial thought is because there's a bit of bias in this data because I think Gen Z people naturally have less experience in the workplace.
Yes, that's true for sure. They have less years of experience.
It's not just like a generation thing. Even when I was like a very junior at my workplace,
Yeah.
I think I would have said this too.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because I think this is not a wise way to. Do I sound like a boomer?
No, no, keep going.
I don't think this is a wise and effective way to solve your problems in the workplace by
I see.
just directly like saying this out loud or like confronting it directly.
To your manager.
I don't think it's very tactful
Yeah.
way of handling with your issues. And I think this is just lack of experience, I
Yeah.
want to say.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So to be clear, this article, at least the parts I read, they don't provide another perspective, right? They don't say this, these numbers compared to the same survey to, let's say, millennials or Gen X, right? So you're just chalking it up to, I guess, an experience, and you think you and your generation, let's say 15 years ago, would have answered similarly.
I mean, there definitely would be a generational trend. I see Gen Z people are definitely more vocal with their personal opinions in general. But I think this survey in particular with the workplace thing, I think a lot of it has to do with lack of experience.
I see.
Because if I really want something to change in my workplace, I wouldn't do this, right?
Not okay. Let me throw this one at you in particular. So if you had, let's say, if you were dissatisfied with the company they work for, 25% nearly said they just quit. That seems high to me. And yeah, I mean, I guess for me, the model I had from my parents, right, which I think came from Korea in general, find a job and just work there for life.
Yeah.
Right. And so that at least, does that shock you? Do you think 15 years ago, you or 25% of your peers would have said, like, if you're dissatisfied at work, you just quit?
Again, I think I thought pretty similarly.
Oh, okay.
Like, I shouldn't be treated like this, right? I can find a better place. I
Yeah.
can go somewhere else, right? At some instances I did.
Yeah.
I quit. I didn't quit right away, but like looking back throughout my career,
Yeah.
I see a lot of opportunities that I got through doing that, but also a lot of opportunities that I lost.
Yeah.
Because like I think there are fluctuations of like a work environment for a certain company too. Like sometimes they go through a very bad phase. Sometimes like they fix it and then they get better, right? But I think if you have not a lot of experience, you don't understand like the long-term fluctuation of sometimes like companies can go through this phase.
Yeah.
But if you just bear with it, I mean, companies are usually, they're a group of people who act rationally. So everyone knows that it's a problem and they
Yeah.
would fix it.
I see.
And then it's gonna get better, right? And then sometimes because you don't bear with that like phase of going through the hardship, you miss out on a lot of the fruits that would come from the next phase.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But June, okay, I admit knowing your work history for you, I feel like you have switched jobs and companies and roles a lot. I mean, your major is completely different than what you're working in now.
Yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't say completely different, but it is different.
Yeah.
You went off that straight path. And I know you've changed companies from time to time. Would you say you've changed more than your peers, equal or less?
Slightly more.
Just slightly more, though.
I
Not
wouldn't say
significantly
extremely.
more.
I wouldn't say significantly.
Oh, okay,
more.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good. Yeah.
I think it's my peers, but it's very industry specific too.
I see.
Compared to, because like you said, I am doing like my current job is something completely different from what I majored in college and also what I majored in grad school, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I have like, even from my college to my grad school, I made a very significant
Stark change.
change, right? So I have a lot of friends who are working in very different industries,
Ah.
right?
I mean, let me just ask, of your peers from, I think we can say architecture school.
Yeah.
We've said that. How many are not in architecture?
I want to say less than 10%.
Yeah. So you are definitely an outlier.
Oh, in that regards, yes.
Yeah.
But like if you think about people in the tech industry,
Yeah.
I think it's fairly more common to switch jobs.
And then, so you're saying in that group now, you're just slightly more
Yes.
changing jobs slightly more frequently.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I guess I find that surprising just because of my understanding of like Korean work culture.
But aren't you also an outlier to have worked
Jun.
in the same workplace for
Oh, yes.
so long?
I'm an outlier the other way.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. So I worked, I don't know. Yeah, I worked for my previous employer for close to 17 years.
Which is crazy.
And I am an extreme outlier, yes. But Jun, I was modeling that after what my parents showed me. That's the only concept I had, which is they both worked for their respective employers for 30 plus years and then retired, right? So that's what was modeled for me. And I assume that was modeled for you and your generation. But you're saying it has changed, which is, again, interesting.
Yes. I think it definitely depends on the industry. And I think I was fortunate enough where like the tech scene was very booming
Yeah.
when I started working. So there were so many opportunities that seemed so exciting and fascinating for me.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person who, if I see an opportunity, I want to grasp it. And I'm less so now than before. But when I was junior, I was like so interested. There's like so many things that are happening in the tech industry. Like I wanna get to know that. Like I want to see what that's like. Like if there's something new, I want to experience that. And like I was fortunate enough to be in that industry in that phase, and I think that resulted in like switching companies more than average. But I think it's, again, that's why I'm saying I'm slightly above average.
I see.
Yeah.
Again, one of my generalizations of Korean society is that as a whole, it's very risk averse. So switching companies inherently is risky, right? So that's where, again, another reason why I'm kind of surprised that you only say slightly. But no, I mean, again, I do think mobility is good.
Yeah.
And in general, wisdom in the US, at least in the tech field, every 3 years, you should probably be changing companies.
Yeah.
You know, leveraging what you learned and grew, and then maybe getting a promotion much more quicker, or getting into the role you would have had to wait 1 to 2 more years at your current company for. One reason why I'm, again, bringing up some generalizations here, in Korean workplaces, I've heard promotions oftentimes are purely based on tenure, not skills, not ability. And so in that sense, there's very little advantage to job hopping. You're not going to get a promotion. You have the same years of experience. So that's one thing. Maybe, I don't know if you could address whether that's true or not.
Yeah, this is exactly why it depends on the industry, because that didn't apply to the tech industry in Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. That's great. Okay. A couple more here though, Jun. Again, in this survey, only 10% of these respondents in Gen Z said they would just hold it in. 10%, 1 in 10. I thought the whole idea of like chama, like goseng, right? That seems pretty pervasive in Korean society, right? Like you just hold it in.
Yeah.
I mean, Gen Z is not doing that.
Make it into a sediment.
Yeah, let it ferment into bitterness. But no, you're saying it's, again, you're does that surprise you? Yeah, only 10% would just hold it in and bear it.
It is surprising, but I think there's also a persona that you want to display and what you actually are.
Yeah, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I think the chamaness is very out of trend right now. So you don't
It
want to
is.
say that it is.
Oh, it's out of trend.
Yeah.
Okay. Even for the older generation. Like you would no longer take pride in how much you can bear in chama.
I think it comes with a little bit of shame.
Oh, interesting.
That I'm that type of person who would just chama the situation, right?
Like you're a pushover, you'll get like taken advantage of.
Yeah, I'm like a weak person. I don't know. That's what
So
I feel like.
interesting,
There's like, cause the Gen Z people, I think they say a lot of things that I wouldn't say, but they won't actually say it to in a really serious context, right?
I see.
They would want to think that they're that type of people, but they actually aren't.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. So again, all surveys are flawed like this, but I mean, for me, Jun, I would say I still take pride in like how much I can chama and goseng,
Really?
Yeah.
You take pride in the fact that you 고생?
Yeah.
That's such a Korean
No,
mentality.
it is. And especially like maybe an older Korean mentality that isn't true
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Wow. Would I mean I know this is conjecture. Would your parents still take pride in how much they can chama and goseng? Wait, sorry, how much goseng they can chama? Is that a better way of saying it?
How much 고생 that they can 참아?
Yeah.
Would they take pride in that?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you're saying for you and your generation it already started to change a bit.
They're, I mean, they might take pride in this, but it's not like 멋있어.
Ah.
Do you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
I don't know.
So it's maybe not, you know.
Especially not for the Gen Z people.
That's what I'm saying,
They wouldn't
yeah.
think it's 멋있어.
So historically, it was seen as like really impressive how much you can bear without complaining or quitting.
Yeah.
Now you're saying it's somewhere in the neutral territory. You might do it, but you don't take pride in it.
Yeah.
And now you're saying for the younger generation, it's almost seen as shameful. Like, don't be a pushover, don't be weak.
I think so.
Oh, that's good. And
Yeah.
again, I think that's a general trend towards individualism
Yeah.
and also breaking hierarchy a bit, which was the other thing I wanted to bring up here. Okay, two more. So the 25% of respondents who said they would confide in a coworker. The reason why, I don't know if this is surprising or not, but you've mentioned before, at least for you and your generation, workplace friends, you don't get too close, right? Is that true? Like it's just, you keep your work life separate from your personal life. But this one is saying it seems to be like that's crossing that boundary where you trust your coworker enough that you confide in them. Again, a Korean society, another generalization I'd say is it's highly competitive. So in a sense, confiding in a coworker is almost risky because they could easily use that against you. Anyway, so I don't know. These are the things that come up in my mind.
Oh, so in when there's a dispute is what they're saying?
Basically, when you're really dissatisfied at work. So I guess do you think Gen Z is more friendly with their peers than you and your generation? Again, because my understanding of Korean society is it's highly competitive from day one. And so again, why would you confide in your peer? That's your competition. They could use it against you.
Again, it's because they have no experience.
I see.
I think this is something that you learn throughout your career that, maybe I shouldn't share too much with my coworkers, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just like showing how naive they are.
It's interesting. What I would say is, though, I feel like at work, a lot of times coworkers feel like, oh, we're in the same boat together, working for the same company. And maybe your competition is that other company. But in Korea, like the competition is so much that like every other peer is your competition. And so you can't trust anyone. Anyway, do you think Gen Z is more trusting of their peers than you were?
I think I was that naive too. It's just like common human courtesy, right? Like I'm like going through this trouble. I just want to share it with my friend, but you get to know quickly that it's not a very good idea.
Man, I don't consider it naive to be trusting of your peers.
I mean, it depends on the person, I think.
Sure, yeah.
But like the general concept of like you shouldn't share too much with your coworkers, I think it's a general. Isn't that like general common sense?
Maybe. I feel like it's more extreme in Korea due to the competition aspect than it is in the US, but maybe I'm off on that. Yeah. My personal experience is that I think I'm way more trusting and I feel a sense of camaraderie with my peers at work than your average Korean worker.
It's just that I don't feel that it's because of the competition or people are being like snakes or whatever. It's just that everyone is coming from a different place.
Okay. Anyway, sorry, just to finish this, the last percent here, they said 20% said they would consult with their supervisor. So again, knowing Korean is so hierarchical, my understanding is complaining or saying anything negative to your manager or boss at work in Korea, pretty taboo, not a good move. But this is saying, 1 in 5 would do that for Gen Z. Yeah, any thoughts on that number and that action of like, do you think Gen Z is more trusting of their managers or less trusting of their managers than your generation?
Interesting. But do you think, first of all, I want to ask, do you think this percentage is lower than you thought or higher?
I guess I thought it was higher than I would
Higher
have
than-
expected. Because in Korea, again, because of that hierarchy, again, my understanding was you're not supposed to complain or say anything negative upward.
I'm not surprised with this. Oh, my initial reaction to the 21% was that, oh, these people are the only people that know what to do.
Oh, because that's the right thing to do.
That's what I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it's naive sometimes for people to just chama. I think like raising, like flagging in the right situations is also a signal of seniority, right? Like if you're a seasoned worker, you would know exactly when to flag. No?
No, I mean, I agree with you,
Yeah.
right? Maybe more specifically how to flag, right? Don't just complain, come up with a solution,
Yeah,
offer
exactly.
alternatives,
Yeah.
take initiative to try to fix it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think in American contexts, again, I've been in more white collar jobs, so I know it might be different otherwise. But yeah, I was taught like your manager's your closest advocate, right? They're the person that should be working on your behalf. So yeah, of course you'd want to confide in them and be very transparent with them. Now, in every country, every workplace in the world, there are good managers and bad managers. But at least if you have a good manager, yeah, you should be trusting them. So yeah, I would want this number to be very high. But anyway, I just thought Korean workplaces were a little bit different in that regard. But you're saying no. You think in Korean workplaces, managers are seen that way too. At least the good managers, right? They advocate for their employees. They don't, they should be their closest ally, like best confidant, things like that.
Yeah, I think again, me working in the tech industry, which is might be very different from your average workplace in like Korea in general. Maybe I'm more fortunate, or like people who are working in the more like traditional industries might think that I am naive. But I think most managers that I met were like truthfully trying their best to be good managers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I think you're lucky. But let's
including you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Let's turn it to Gen Z though.
Yeah.
Do you think they are more or less or equally trusting of their managers than you were at their age?
I can't speak on behalf of them.
Of course not. But it's fun to try.
I think they're definitely more independent than my my generation. Therefore, maybe I don't want to say that they don't trust the manager, but maybe they have a tendency to think more of like, I take care of my problems and not like have you
Take
solve
care of
my-
it for
yeah,
me.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just guessing.
Jun, I think you're very conscious of your Gen Z coworkers. You're painting them in a very positive light.
Yeah, I think the word konde is such a taboo thing, and you don't want to be that.
Yeah.
And I think it actually affects the way that you think. Maybe it's just like my brain.
Yeah.
Just like trying to think that this is a like not trying to be konde at all.
Interesting.
But truthfully, I don't see there's much of a difference.
Okay.
I think it's more of like a. Do you know what sabasa mean?
No.
Like saram by saram.
Oh, it's a case by case basis.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll just share a couple anecdotes.
Okay.
And I can safely say it because it's not my personal experience.
All right.
My one friend, they run a restaurant. So they were trying to hire for, let's say, line chefs, but also like the host and bussers and everyone that runs a restaurant, right? And the stories they would share about basically the Gen Z applicants, they're just, to them, it's horrifying, right? For example, applying for the job, getting the interview, and then completely ghosting, never showing up, never saying I'm not going to make it, never giving a reason, just literally dropping contact after they applied, got the interview, and then stopped. Another person is in the medical profession and, talking about the interns and the younger crop of Gen Z med students coming up. And it's similarly very like kind of generally just clueless, like about things that they should know at that level and just waiting to be, kind of handheld and very not proactive in that sense. And the third one was for in the teaching world. the newest crop of Gen Z, let's say teachers, very, very casual about their job. Whether it's, taking time off when it wasn't approved, or just being very, let's say, I know this is a trigger word, but like very delicate. Like you cannot say anything negative to them or about them. Otherwise they'll just crumble. Like they can't take criticism. They don't do well with that constructive feedback. And again, in the face of hardship, they just quit. Like there's just less fight in them overall. So I know these are huge generalizations, of course, but again, it's fun to make. But is there any stigma against Gen Z coworkers in Korea? Sorry, Gen Z workers in Korea, similar to the ones I just shared?
Yeah, I think it's very similar. I've seen a lot of like internet posts exactly describing that, like almost oddly similar.
Okay.
To be fair, I only know like 2 Gen Z people in my workplace.
Okay.
So I can only base my experience off of 2 people.
Yeah.
And those 2 people tend to be more, I guess, reasonable than what you see on the internet.
Okay.
And that's why maybe, yeah.
All right. Anyway, okay.
But I did see a lot of those posts on the internet.
Made by
why do you
boomers.
think that is?
Oh, this is a much longer discussion. Like you, I don't have the most exposure either. And again, in my field and in our fields, I guess it's not your typical, let's say, subset of the Gen Z population. So I don't think I'm in a good position to talk about it. And we'll probably edit this whole part out. Yeah. The other things too, though, Jun, like they don't know how to use punctuation. They don't know how to spell. They don't know how to use like basic desktop applications like email and calendaring. Wow. They're just literally, they're like, their whole lives have been on their phone. So when they have to do something in Excel or on a laptop, or, knowing how and when to email, it's like, I don't know. It's just complete like lack of professionalism, let's say. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, Jun, this is all we had for the July headlines. So yeah, thank you for going through them with me.
It was fun.
We have one new Patreon subscriber, even though we recorded the previous episode 2 days ago. Thank you to DK Lee.
Thank you, DK Lee.
So awkward. Did I transition too quick?
No. I'm surprised that you didn't forget to shout out to our Patreons.
June, there was a super thanks we got as well that we did not shout out before, from Jung Hwan An, 1293. Thank you, Jung Hwan An. 감사드리고.
Thank you, Jung Hwan An, 1293.
No, really, thank you for the super thanks. Means a lot. As always, if you think this episode was worth 25 cents, please consider supporting us for the minimum $1 a month on Patreon. And again, knowing Patreon's not popular in Korea, you can now support us through Super Thanks on YouTube.
There's a membership thing too that we haven't activated actually.
It would be great if we could figure out how to tie YouTube membership to at least Discord access. Oh, we haven't done that in a while. If you support us on Patreon, not only will you get a shout out in the next episode we record, you can come on our Discord.
Yeah, it's pretty active.
I wouldn't say that, but
than I expected.
It's increasingly active. We have a growing community of listeners who like to, talk with Jun and I directly, talk to each other, discuss episodes. And yeah, it's a lot of fun whenever there is discussion there. So
yeah, I wish the Discord community is more actively discussing within themselves too, but it's usually more towards us.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think it needs to hit critical mass and then it might happen. Yeah.
That's true.
Okay. There's probably more we could do on Discord, like conversation starters. I don't know. But yeah, thank you everyone for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week. Bye. Yeah. Okay, anyway, the headline here is mostly around...
Hey, you have so much cat fur on your chin.
I do? Okay. Where did it come from?
Where did it come from?
Why do I have so much cat fur? Anyway, it's gone now mostly, right?
Yeah.